This show is brought to you by X Factor FM. Attention all units. Time to rise and grind. This is not a drill. I repeat, this is not a drill. You put in the hours on the job site, the factory floor, and the rigs. But here, right now, the mission is different. Welcome to Operation Fatherhood. The mission brief is simple. Lead with strength, guide with heart, show up for your kids like you show up for your work site. Every single day, no excuses. This is your call to gear up, step in, and execute the most important role of life, being a dad. Operation Fatherhood, hard hats, soft hearts. The mission starts now. Welcome back, dads. Welcome back to yet another Operation Fatherhood episode. Hopefully you've been doing good. Hopefully you've been enjoying the previous episodes, the mini briefings. I didn't get one out this Monday, but I'm gonna get better at getting those out. Y'all can catch those over on the TikTok, Operation Fatherhood TikTok. So y'all check us out there. Also check us out on IG. We got some dope things coming up, so just a little housekeeping. We do have some dope dads that will be blessing the show, so y'all stay tuned for that. Some dads that have been at the grind for a little bit, come to bring their perspective, their tips and tricks that they have for and have used for their kids. So yeah, and if you would like to be a dad on the show, please by all means reach out to us. Hit us up at the email Operation Fatherhood 25@gmail.com. So that way, let us know you're interested in being a guest on the show. We would definitely love to have you. So this episode is called Letters, Calls, and FaceTime Hugs. I know we talked about it in a previous episode, but if you've ever been out on the road, working a double, spending weeks away from home, you know that connecting with the kids isn't always easy, being so far away. The distance sometimes makes it hard, right? Those long nights, you getting off, headed to the hotel, living out of hotels, it definitely makes having a family back at home very difficult. The missed dinners. The one thing that I will say is, now that technology has come a long way, we can pick up our phones and FaceTime our kids and be able to see them through the screen. We can't be there physically. We can't give them those hugs like we would, but the next best thing with technology and the use of technology, to be able to say, hey, you know what? I love you. Good night. Help with homework via FaceTime if you're able to do that. I remember, way back when, before the technology, we had cell phones, but they weren't up to speed. They didn't have the video call right away when I started having kids. So, what's the next best thing? Well, I know, Skype was a big one. You had a laptop, you had Skype, we had a Skype, a computer at the house, and we'd have to, do like a Skype call. But now that technology has come so far, now we can just pick up our handheld mini computer that we walk around with all day, that we scroll TikTok and all our social medias with, and hit that FaceTime button and be able to, talk to our kids. But here's the truth about working that distance, working away from the family. It does not break your fatherhood. It does not break that by any means. It does something other than that. It tests it. And what do I mean by test it? It tests how consistent you show up for your kids. It tests how much you love and cherish being able to see the kids, right? So today we're just gonna talk about how letters, calls, and quick FaceTime hugs and kisses, right, can keep that bond strong when your presence isn't always there at 100%. When your presence is, to make sure that your presence is felt, and no matter how far you are, that you're still showing up. So what's the reality of the distance? Being a dad on the move, definitely. My truckers, my traveling tradesmen, military, anybody working offshore, that's three on, 3 weeks out, 3 weeks on, back at home a month. They do month rotations, or just long hour, shift workers. Sometimes you're on the night shift, right? A lot of times that distance does put a damper on the family life, right? The guilt of missing birthdays, school plays, school functions, and just everyday moments, right? I know there's been many a times, and I've said this before, that I have missed, me personally, have missed birthdays, right? But then you try to plan around, when you're coming back into town, and then celebrate those things when you get back, but not being there for the actual day. Understanding that your presence isn't only physical, it's emotional, it's consistency, and it's intentional. So make sure that you're being intentional with your presence, not just being able to, pick your kid up, give them a hug, give them a kiss, but the emotional. If they're going through some things as they, with their preteens and going into, that teenager stage, I have all girls. So that transition from, being a baby to being a toddler to being, in that preteen stage and then becoming a teenager, that transition, my presence had to be there. I had to make sure I showed up for my girls, so that way they knew that they can call on dad, that they can talk to dad, and really have, a presence in their lives, even though I wasn't there physically. Right. So just make sure that your presence isn't always about the physical, that you're there also emotionally for the kids, that when you do, you are there and you are home, you're consistent, right? It's not, I'm going to turn on the game. And again, nothing is wrong with playing, Call of Duty, Fortnite, Rocket League, whatever it is you play on the game, NBA 2K, Madden, whatever. But include your kids in that, because all they want is for you to be consistent and show up for them. Excuse me. So, a couple of tips, when we're talking about, the reality of the distance, reframe the guilt, right? Again, we get that guilt and we try to reframe it to a way where, they understand, and depending on how old and your kids are, is the comprehension level, right? So you got to make sure that they understand that you're not abandoning them, you're not leaving them on purpose, that you're out there providing. Make sure that they understand that you're out there providing, so that way they have everything that they need, that they have, that new toy or those new set of sneakers as they get older. They have a roof over their heads and food on the table. Their bellies are good. They're sleeping in a warm bed, right? So be honest with your kids. Dad's working hard for us. That builds understanding. It builds pride. And I know we talked about this in a previous episode, but the work ethic, they see us and they try to emulate us a lot. So when we are being honest with their kids and let them know that we are working hard, they try to emulate that, and that work ethic ends up going, along with them. Use photos, video calls, voice memos to create familiarity, even from afar. I know what I do, and I've said this before, on some of the birthdays that I have missed, I would always make sure that my daughters would have me singing them happy birthday and making them like a virtual birthday card, so they knew that dad didn't forget their birthday. As long as I couldn't be there physically, right, they knew that dad did not forget their birthday. And I've done that for the many years that I've been away. And, again, as that familiarity comes along and they start getting familiar and understanding why you're away, those things really matter. It's those little things that really matter to them. So a couple modern ways for us to stay connected. Obviously, being able to pull out our phones, hop on, your iPad, if you have a computer, hop on the computer, and you have the FaceTime. Like I have the FaceTime on a MacBook. I use a MacBook. Being able to sync everything up and be able to utilize that technology. It bridges the gap for us dads working away. Technology is definitely one that has come a long way, and it definitely has bridged the gap from all of us blue collar workers, military dads that are working afar, right? Working abroad, and bridging that gap to bring us closer to our family, right? Text messages, video calls, voice notes, shared playlist as touch points of love, like certain songs. I know, I try to stay in tune with what my daughters are listening to. Some of the new stuff I really can't dig with. I'm from, born in the 80s, raised in the 90s, 2000s. Like, that was the highlight era of music, but trying to stay in tune in what they're doing. And so if you create a playlist of stuff that, you might think they like of your music, and tell them to do the same thing. Hey, send me a playlist of what you're doing. I DJ from time to time, and I ask my daughters, hey, what should I play, or give me some songs, some input. And that right there, again, using technology to its advantage, turning your FaceTime calls into a ritual, right? Bedtime stories, good night messages, a morning check-in, right? So I think technology, if we utilize technology to its fullest potential, other than scrolling TikTok and Instagram, other than, looking at reels and memes of certain things on our lunch breaks, but actually utilizing it to its fullest potential to be able to connect us back to our families, I think it's where we won't feel as far from our families when we are working away. So some of the tips when we're talking about staying connected and using the modern ways of staying connected: schedule those consistent call times, right? Even if they're short calls, right? I know that, every night, not so much for my oldest, oldest three, but I know for my youngest, I try to make sure that I call her before she goes to bed and to let her know, hey, good night, get some good rest, I love you, right? And I've done it with the others as well. And every morning before I go into work, I send everybody a good morning text. Good morning. Be great at what you do. At least 1% better than you were yesterday. Y'all have a great day. I love you, right? That, again, consistency, being able to do those things, right? Even if they're for, 5-10 minutes, right? Those 5-10 minutes really, really count and really matter. Record dad messages that your child can replay whenever they miss you, right? Try to do this. If you know you're going to be gone for 6 months, right? You might be offshore for, 2 months. Record a couple of dad messages, some videos, make them kind of funny, do kind of funny voices if you have little ones. So that way they can look back, they can put it on the iPad, and whenever they miss dad, guess what? Bam, they're right there at their fingertips. So it's like us scrolling TikTok and IG for some of the reels and memes and stuff. They can get on their iPad and scroll for dad videos, right? Dad messages. For younger kids, use video chats to show them the tools, right? The trucks, the job sites, so that way they can understand where you're at. If you're at a job site, if your job allows you to video, some job sites don't. You can't have your phone out. You can't be recording. But again, for them to understand the environments that we are working in, as adolescents, as youngins, they have to, the younger the kid, they have to visually see what daddy is going through. They have to visually see, hey, this is the big machinery that dad gets to operate, or this is how high I am. Say you're a steel worker, iron worker, and you're up, 15 stories, a quick little video, a quick little, something to show them exactly what you're doing. Keeps them interested, keeps them understanding why we are away. The power of an old school connection. Now, mind you, I'm from the old school. I learned how to write cursive, right? So, handwritten notes. Why not handwrite letters, make postcards, instead of, and again, we're in a digital age where that is readily available, and we can, again, like I said, I make digital birthday cards for my daughters if I'm away, if I can't, be there. But nothing beats a handwritten note saying, hey, princess, I love you. I know I have a note, and they still have it up on the refrigerator right now, that said, to all the pretty ladies in the house, know that daddy loves you, and just remember the acronym. And I didn't put acronym, but I put, just remember TICDA, TICDA. Today I can do anything. I love y'all. And that was handwritten, and they have that on the refrigerator right now. So again, get a sheet of paper, write down, a poem if you're a poet, if you're good at drawing little, stick figures, or if you're, really good, like an artist for real, draw them some pictures and do some old school stuff like that. And it also makes it to where it's something tangible, something, again, a FaceTime call. Yeah, they're holding the phone, but they can't really feel that. A letter, they actually put it in their hands, right? They understand, damn, dad wrote this letter for me. Dad wrote this message or drew this picture for me. So, and then being able to read dad's handwriting now becomes a comfort and a keepsake for them throughout their lives, right? Again, I remember watching my grandfather write letters when he was sitting at his desk. He'd turn on his lamp, he'd crack open a Miller Lite, he'd spark up a cigarette, put it in his ashtray, and he would just sit there and write letters. And that's kind of where, that old school connection kind of, again, stuck with me, of being able to write letters, express how you feel. So like I said, write letters before you leave on a long trip. Your partner can give it to them, during key moments, their first day of school, tough days after school, if they play, playing with friends and something happens and they're just having a bad day. Well, a letter from dad could definitely help. Sticky notes around the house, little small gestures and meanings. And I know in our mini briefing, we talked about the lunch note, right? But this was reverse, coming from the kid into the lunchbox of the dad, right? So leaving sticky notes, and my father-in-law taught me something very well, and what he called them, shimleys, right? They're called shimleys. So it's crazy when we talk about sticky notes. And shimley means showing how much I love you, right? Shimley. So leaving little sticky notes in their lunchbox next to, on their bathroom mirror before you go out, for extended period of time. Leave the sticky notes, leave little I love yous, little shimleys, right? Showing how much I love you notes, so that way they can get that. And encourage kids to draw or write back, right? It builds that two-way connection, builds that penmanship, right? For them to be able to write letters. Say, if you're in the military, you're going overseas, that's one way to connect. You write letters to them, they write letters back to you. So again, that old school connection, writing letters, drawing pictures, encourage your kids to do that. And I encourage you dads to do that as well. making sure we're keeping the heart connected, right? Your emotional presence is just as important as your physical, but it matters just a little bit more than trying to be perfect. Because again, we're not perfect. We're trying to be the perfect dad, but we know we're not perfect, right? How to show your child love through words and actions and reassurance, right? Through your words, a lot of time are bond. You try to keep your words to your kids because you don't want to see them disappointed, right? So again, keeping the heart connected through your words, through your actions, right? If you say you're coming home with the big teddy bear or that new present that they wanted, well, guess what? Make sure that you do that. And the reassurance that you're there providing for them, the reassurance that daddy loves them, that, you're happy to see them when you do, that they are not a burden to you. Excuse me. That they are not a burden to you, that they are actually your prides and joy. Okay. The reassurance that they are your world. Because again, we go from being selfish and only worrying about us as dads, right, as men, to being selfless and worrying about our little ones, right? Providing for them, making sure they grow up better and have everything better than we had. So, couple of tips. Always say I love you. Never assume that they know that you love them. The more that you tell them, the more they feel it. It's that emotional connection. It's keeping their heart engaged. Tell them that you love them. If you can, when you get home, give them a big hug and tell them that you love them face to face. But always tell your kids that you love them. Be transparent about missing them, but reassure them. Even when I'm gone, I'm always thinking about you. Now, dads, tell me you're not thinking about your kids when you're at work. I am constantly thinking about my daughters day in and day out. When I'm at work, they are always on my mind. Well, what's my oldest doing, right? I hope she's having a good day at work. What's my second oldest doing up in, at the university? Hopefully her classes are doing good. Hopefully she's okay because, being away from family, right? You think about those things. My other two that are in high school, I hope their day is good. I hope everything is okay. I hope that, nothing happens. The world that we live in today, a lot of things could potentially happen. So always thinking about them and always letting them know that even though I'm not there physically, you are on my mind and I'm always thinking about you. And try to create homecoming rituals. Something special when you reunite, right? Ice cream, a park trip, movie night. I know that when I come home, we try to go out to eat, right? A lot of times it's like Buffalo Wild Wings, or we'll do like Mexican, or we might do, my girls like steak. They like steak, and let them tell you that when they order steak, they order it because again, they emulate, they see, they go accustomed to what we order and how we do things, and they order their steaks medium rare, just like dad. So I feel sorry for the boys that fall in love with my daughters. You have your hands full, but just know that their dad has shown them the right way. So, but yeah, those homecoming rituals, right? Certain things, those little activities, right? If you know you're coming home, dang, dad's coming home, we're going to go, catch the latest movie, or we're going to go check out, this new ride at the amusement park, or something along those lines. And it doesn't even have to be to where, you're spending money. It could be just, hey, we're just going to go play at the park for, an hour or two. I'm going to push you on the swing. I'm going to watch you slide down the slide. I might get my big ass up there and, slide down the slide too, so you can laugh at me. Those things. So that way they know that it's a good time when you are home. One of the things about teaching kids the value of sacrifice is we assume that they get it as they get older, but they don't truly understand all the sacrifice that us dads have put in to being away, the sacrifice that we put our bodies in if we're working in the trades or in the military or offshore, right? The dangerous things that we do. So kids grow up respecting hard work when they understand why. The why part. I think that's key, right? They see dad works hard and they respect it. But when they understand the why dad works away, it goes just a little bit further. It ends up being, well, damn, why couldn't my dad make it here? But then understanding and seeing why, because, dad's on top of a 200-story or 200-foot building hanging steel, or he's down inside a big hydrocracker at a refinery that potentially could end up blowing up. So them understanding the why, not about our specific jobs, but why we do what we do. And again, it's a lot of sacrifice. Use some of your own sacrifices to teach gratitude, discipline, empathy, right? When I would tell them, they all know I was in the military. So being that I was in the military, there was a lot of things I had to sacrifice when I went into the military, and not so much sacrifice and I had to give up, but I went in there and sacrificed my mind, body, to defend this great country that we live in called the United States. So again, they are grateful for that. They learn discipline because I show them discipline, but then also empathy. So don't be afraid to give your kids those life lessons, right? Those life lessons that you may have had that you want to pass down, or stuff that you learned from, and trying to make them not go down a bad path or anything like that. Make sure that you talk to your kids. Tell your kids, I work hard not to escape you guys, but to build for you, right? A lot of times, depending on our demeanor, they pick up on that. They see, me personally, I know I'm very guilty of this, that like when I'm home, but once it starts getting to about that day before I have to travel back, I start getting back into that work mode, right? And they see that. But again, letting them know that I'm not going to work to escape you guys. I'm going to work to build for you, right? I'm going to work to help build a life, a legacy for you guys. Involve them in your small planning moments, right? Let them help pack. Let them help track your trips on the map. Let them see where you're going to be at, because it keeps them involved in dad being away. It keeps them involved in, the whole rigmarole of us dads having to sacrifice being away from our families. So when you are home, prioritize that quality time. Like I said, don't overcompensate with gifts. Don't go out and, I'm going to bring you a new toy every time I come back into town. No, that's not the case, because then they get to expecting that. Prioritize that quality time. Lead with presence, right? If you have girls, hey, what are we going to do? My girls are older, hey, y'all go get y'all nails done. We can, do certain things like that. I'm going to go grab some fajitas. We're going to barbecue. We're going to have a good time there at the house. And it's presence. It's quality time. So definitely presence over presence, if that makes sense. And I'll leave y'all with this. Again, this is kind of a quick one, but motivational quote for the dads. Distance doesn't define a father's love. Consistency does. Every call, every message, every moment you choose connection is proof that you're still right there, even when you're miles away. So this has been Operation Fatherhood. Greatly appreciate y'all for tuning in, tapping in. Again, like I said, if any dads out there want to, bring their message, bring their stories to the show, please reach out at Dro the Sound God on all social media platforms. And you can hit us up at our Gmail, operationfatherhood25@gmail.com. So we would love to have you. Until next time, peace.